Alright, as you saw just a second ago, I got a bunch of wood and I got a bunch of hammers. The hammers all need new handles. Some of them are okay, but I'm going to replace all of them just because I need the practice. I replaced hammer handles before, but I haven't done the prettiest job with it. So I'm just going to practice with these ones. I got a couple of axes too. I got a big one and a little one, but I'll save those for another video. So I'm going to start with taking the handles off so I can put new handles on. So with this first hammer, it's a little loose. So this would need a new handle eventually anyway. They're like all 100 years old. Don't quote me on that. Vaughn. Terribly sorry, but the name is actually pronounced Vogan, not Vaughn. Vogan. I may be dyslexic. Terribly sorry. Made in USA. If anyone can carbon date that or something, what I'm going to do is once I get the handles off, I'm just going to reface the faces. They're a little dented, a little dinged, so I'm going to clean those up. I'm going to leave any distresses or marks on the cheeks and all that because, I mean, it makes it look a little bit cooler and there's no need to get rid of them anyway. So I'm just going to leave those there. And then once I clean up the head, I'm going to work on forming the handles. I have a bunch of different woods. I'm going to just see whatever speaks to me. If I'm going to be using some of these tools, I'll use a more practical wood. I don't have any hickory with me, so I'm just going to use ash instead. It's like a close second to hickory. So I got a Dremel here. Ideally, I would have a ball burr, but I don't know where that went. So I'm going to be using a carving bit. It'll work the same. I just might not be able to go as deep with it as I can with a ball burr. I'm just going to try and get these steel wedges out, and then I'll work from there. Safety glasses. Alright, so this is where I'm at. I've gotten pretty deep. These are pretty long wedges, but I think I'm deep enough where I can start trying to pull them out with pliers. Oh, there it is. Now I'm just going to do that with all the other ones, and we'll take it from there.
Now give me the beat.
Alright, so this one has nails driven into it, so this should be interesting. 4 nails. There we go. Alright, so I have all these hammers. The handles are gone, obviously. These are all ball peen hammers, and then 1 claw hammer, and then a hot cut. Hi, it's me again. So this is actually not a hot cut. I looked up the brand, and it is a mining tool, pretty much just for splitting rocks apart, stuff like that. So both faces actually may be hardened on this one. I will have to do more research into that before I actually start using it as a hot cut, because if I start striking it with a hardened steel hammer, things may go awry. So this is not a hot cut, but I will be calling it a hot cut for the rest of the video. So I'm going to actually use the hot cut. I have a piece of ash, I think I said earlier, that I'm going to use for it. The rest of these, I don't really have a use for ball peen hammers. I've never needed them. And then a claw hammer, we'll see. This one's a little decrepit. It might just be a decoration as well. As for the ball peen hammers, they're all going to be decoration pieces. I'm not going to sell them, so I'm going to use my fancier woods for them. We'll see where the wind takes us. I'm going to start by cleaning up all these faces because they're pretty worn, pretty dented up, dinged up. I'm just going to make them pretty again. So I have this up to a rough 36 grit finish. I did this to all the hammers. All the faces are clean now. I'm going to leave them here, come back tomorrow and finish polishing them. And once they're polished, I'll be able to put handles on them. It is the next day. I found this as well. So I'm going to take the handle off of this, clean this up. And once I do that, then I will be ready to finish polishing all these hammers and this hot cut. I'm leaving these axes and that hammer for another time. I'm just going to be working on these today and this one. But we're going to polish those and then we'll be ready to put handles on them. Alright, so I wish I was recording, but what happened is while I was pulling those steel wedges that you see out, I was actually pulling like this and I punched myself right in the face. It was quite a sight to behold, but now that it's out of there, the moment's over with, I figured I'd let you in on how I clean up these faces. You can probably see how this one's all dented, rusty, all that. Since you can see a pretty sharp chamfer on the face right here, I'm just going to follow that. Some of them are a little more round. If it's round, I round it off. If it's flat, then I'll just keep it flat. I just hold it up flat to the platen of whatever kind of sanding apparatus you have. I'm waiting on a new, better one right now, so I'm just burning through the leftover belts that I have while the other one ships. So that's the project I'm doing. So pretty much I hold it, I start with the chamfer, I hold it flat to the belt sander, and I just slowly rotate. And if I ever need to adjust my hand, I pull away from the belt sander so I'm not sanding into the piece while I'm changing my position. That way you get a more even finish along the whole thing. You're not getting low spots, high spots, stuff like that. And then with the face itself, I do the same thing, just flat. I rotate. And then I go to the slack portion of the belt and I do the same thing. Just like that. And that gives me a nice, not completely flat surface, so I still have some trueness when I'm striking. There's a whole science behind that I'm not quite certain of yet. I just know that it works. So just to elaborate a little bit on that, if you've seen the videos of people doing rebound tests on the faces of anvils where they drop the ball bearing, that's essentially what's happening where the ball bearing bounces straight back up. That's what you want with the face of the hammer most of the time, where the hammer bounces straight back up. You get the full efficiency of the swing, as well as not leaving marks. If a flat face were to fall into a workpiece, you would probably get marks from the edges of that face, stuff like that, as well as being less efficient in your swings. All right, I have all of these up to a 36 grit rough finish. I'm going to bring them up to as close to a mirror polish as I can, just because for these ones it'll look pretty, but usually you want to have that mirror finish so you don't leave any marks on softer metals, stuff like that. So what I mean by leaving marks in the metal is if you have an imperfect face with scratch marks, dents, dings, stuff like that on softer metals or even hot steel, marks like that will imprint themselves onto the workpiece, and that makes more work for yourself later when you have to grind off those blemishes or when you have to polish away and there are scratch marks or dings that were in your hammer face that are now on your workpiece that you now have to work harder to get rid of. Alright, so I have all of these up to a rough 240 grit from the sanding belt. They're ready to be put onto the buffer, and we'll see how those turn out after that. Alright, so I have all these polished to a mirror finish. Now I'm actually ready to start working on handles. Since most of these are going to be decoration pieces, I have some more exotic woods. I have some mahogany, leopard wood, marble wood, stuff like that. Since I'm not going to be actually using these tools, I'm fine using woods with not the best grain structure, stuff like that. I know that with tools you're actually going to use, you want a very specific grain pattern. Grain orientation. So for now I'm just going to be focusing on getting a good shape down with my carving and being able to get a good fit into the hammer itself. So that's what I'm going to start doing. I'm going to go back to the belt sander, get these are all cut to size. I'm just going to start carving into them now. I'm going to start at the top, just getting them to fit into the eye itself. And then I'm going to work on the ergonomics of it, just making sure it feels good when I'm swinging it. Alright, so I have roughly drawn out the shape and the size that I need. This is pretty much the width of the eye. That's my maximum width that I need to come down to in order to actually fit inside the eye of the hammer. Right here I have drawn out what I think I want to do, which is flare this out a little bit right where it'll sit up against the head of the hammer, basically putting a wedge on either side of the head. Obviously that keeps it from moving in either direction both ways. Some people speak for this, some against it. I'm going to try it just because it's a little more challenging than just making a straight line, a straight taper into the head. So I'm going to try it just to see how it goes. Alright, this is what I got so far. It's better than I expected it to be. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good for what I've done in the past. So I'm going to be doing the handle for the hot cut. This one I'm just going to make pretty straight taper into the eye. It doesn't need to be fancy or anything since the handle isn't going to be taking most of the impact. It's going to be the actual head itself. So I'm just going to make it a straight taper. I've started to work on the ball peen hammers. The handle shape usually on these ones, it's similar to the cross peen that I did, but after it tapers inward, it tapers back outward and flares the rest of the way down. That's if you want to have multiple grip points along the handle, if you want to hold it, if you want to choke up a little bit, choke down. I don't completely understand the ergonomics of it, but it works and it feels comfortable to me. So I'm going to follow suit with that on the rest of these, where I'm going to try and taper in and then flare back out. I'm also going to try and use the draw knife, carve most of this out because I've already made a lot of dust. I don't really want to make more than I need to, so I'm going to try that and I'll see how that goes. So I have never actually used a draw knife to work on anything important before. I've only ever really messed around with it, so I'm going to try and not mess this up. Yeah, wish me luck. Okay, so that sucked. It's a lot of wood I had to remove, and it just was not pleasant removing that with the belt sander. I should have used the bandsaw, but Now I've learned my lesson. I'm going to try and go back to the draw knife and just narrow out the rest of this portion to be manageable. Let's see how that goes. As you can see, I've removed a ton of material, but a lot is still on here. But I think I've removed enough that I can do the rest of it with the belt sander, I hope. So I'm gonna go back to that and I'll see how that goes. So after all that, this is what I have. It's very thin around this shouldered area right here. Since the hammer's not gonna actually be put to use, I'll live with it. But if this were a hammer that I was planning on using, I would probably start over. But yeah, this is what I have. I'm gonna move on to the next leopard wood handle right there. It was the same size as this one, so I'm not really looking forward to it. I'm gonna try and do more stock removal on that one than I did with this one with the draw knife or anything that isn't the belt sander, because I'm really tired of it by now. It's the next day. I spent a lot of time off camera finishing this handle. It fits and it's not unwieldy either. It actually feels kind of good, which is surprising given how much I was just ripping off of this thing. The rest of the handles are smaller stock, so it should be a lot easier. It's most of gonna be the same process again, so I'll just get right into it. I'll make a little montage or something. As soon as I have the rest of them finished, which is like 6 right now, we'll be able to put wedges in them and actually finish these, and they'll be ready to be put on a shelf somewhere. I have all the handles ground up to a nice 320 grit finish. I don't want to get any higher than that because the smoother your handle is, the more tighter you have to grip, which leads to blisters pretty much. So I left it at a 320 grit. So I'm actually going to char the ash handles. It seems like that's what people do these days, so I'm gonna do the same. It's time to actually put wedges in, so I cut up this rosewood. I'm going to use that as the wedge. It's a nice hard wood to put right in between there. It'll contrast nicely with the other woods as well, so I think it's a good choice. I'm just going to go to the bandsaw, make a cut right here, down the middle, and then I'm going to drive these into that cut. That's what's going to hold the whole assembly in place, essentially. Those steel wedges from the beginning of the video I saved. I don't typically like using them unless the wedge cracks in half or something like that. I like to save those for when the handle has been on there for a while and then it starts to wiggle. Then you can just throw one of those in there and it'll tighten it back up a little bit. So I did save those so I don't have to make more, but you can make them easily. You can just forge them out. Yeah, that's where we're at, so I'm just gonna make all these cuts and then we'll be pretty much finished. Alright, here's the magic that everyone's been waiting for. You're finally going to actually be driving these handles into the hammers, in this case a hot cut. I have my other hammer right here, just driving it in at this point. Just like that. Hoping that it fits through my hardy hole. Alright, that should do it. I'm just gonna drive it in. Hopefully it stays straight. There we go. And then as for the wedge, I actually have some wood glue right here. Just gonna put a little bit in that crack right there. For the wedge, it's gonna go right in between there. And just like that. Now I'm gonna flip it over. Just drive it in the rest of the way. There you have it. So I'm just gonna do that 9 more times.
Now give me the beat.
Yep, there's a little crack here. Let's see if it'll focus. Right there. That's a little unfortunate, but since this is a decoration piece anyway, I'm not too broken up about it. But that is normally a occasion where I would start the handle over again, just because that'll eventually lead to a bigger crack and probably split or shatter at some point. Alright, so that's all finished. All the wedges are driven in. These are solid. They're all in there real good, but as you can see, it's still a little ugly with all this sticking out. So I'm just gonna cut that off and it'll be ready just to put a little bit of oil on. These will be finished finally. Alright, and then with these 2 ash ones, I said I was gonna char them. So basically just blacken this outer wood right here. I forget exactly what that does. I think it actually just strengthens the handle itself. So I'm just gonna do that. And there you have it. Alright, just gonna take some linseed oil here and just rub it up and down on this thing and bring out that nice color of the wood and not drop the hammer. So all in all, I think these hammers turned out really well. I learned a lot from them. Functionally, they are very good. I think I did a very good job fitting them, refinishing the faces, fitting the handles, shaping the handles, all that. Aesthetically, there are a few things that or a lot of things actually that I could have done better, but that is the point of why I decided to do this is that I could learn how to do it better the next time. So when I actually do have customers that need something fixed or completely restored, that I can speak to the services that I offer. If you think I did a good job today, over the last couple days, these services are available through my website. So if you live in or around Chicago, I do local work, and then if you like me enough to send me something to work on, I would love to take a look at it. All in my website, ekmforge.com, and you can contact me through there. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. I got some axes that I gotta work on, so that might be my next endeavor. Thanks for watching.